Hi, this is John Callahan. In this video, I'm going to discuss the three components of creating a cremation-friendly website, by which I mean a website that a cremation customer would go to and come away with a positive impression of your funeral home. Remember, you never get a second chance to make a positive impression. And more often today, that first impression is being formed by your website. People are visiting your website long before they're willing to visit your funeral home. So you've got to be very careful about that website so that you proactively manage that positive first impression. Your website's a critical part of your overall marketing strategy, so it's worth spending a few minutes on this topic. There's three main components of your website. There is the content, there's the function, and the brand. I'm going to talk through each one of these components now. The content deals with what do people want to know when they come to your website. Now, think of today. You came to this website with the idea that you wanted to learn something. You wanted to know things. It's the same reason people go to any website. They want to know something. So what do people want to know when they come to your website? Well, the cremation family probably doesn't want to know the history of your funeral home. Remember, they're a little bit opposed to the whole concept of funerals. So leading with information about your history and your services is probably not a good idea. Last thing they want to see is pictures of your funeral home. They want to know how a funeral service might help their family heal and how to take somebody through this whole experience that their family is going through right now. Sure, they'll want to see pictures of your funeral home eventually once they've warmed up to the idea, but you don't want to lead with this information. Now, if you happen to be serving one of their family members, then they're really there to find out information about that current services. And that's why obituaries are so important to have on your website. So there are a couple things you've got to think about when you're creating the content for your website. The next thing is, well, what do people want to do? That's the function. The functions of your website is to do things for people. Well, there are two common things that any family, regardless of whether they be cremation or traditional, want to do at your website. One is order merchandise, flowers, things like that, where it's a very common thing for people to do now. But even more common is they want to leave a message in some sort of an online guest book. That's a very common function for people to have on their funeral home websites these days. Now, the most growing trends, though, and I think where the future is going to take the industry, is people will want to participate in the funeral experience. And this is probably especially prevalent for the cremation family who really doesn't want to come to the funeral home in the first place. But can they participate online? Now you're talking something that they might feel comfortable with. So having online video tributes and even webcasting, those are a couple functions that I think are really going to become pretty dominant in the future of funeral home websites. The third component is brand. The brand is, what do you want people to remember? It's not what they want to know. It's not what they want to do. This is the area that you have to be very careful about managing. What do you want them to remember? You have to proactively manage this. It's your opportunity to stand out. Remember from my previous videos, all things being equal, the deciding criteria is always price. Brand is your opportunity to make sure that all things are not equal, so that you're giving people something to decide on other than price. It all goes back to that unique selling proposition. Have that thought through, create a brand from that, and that is the other major component of your website. Those are the three major components. They work together to create a great website that a cremation customer will visit, and they'll leave with a positive first impression of your funeral home. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I see over and over again is for a funeral home, or really any small business, but I especially see it with funeral home owners, is to go out and hire just an individual web developer to create this website for you. Well, that's a really big mistake because it takes three very, very different skill sets to create this website. And it's very rare that you can find one web developer with all three skill sets. The first skill set in creating your brand is a designer, somebody who has a graphical capability to create a graphical representation of your unique selling proposition. This is not a programming issue. This is a visual issue. This is something where you need somebody with good graphical skills who can sit down, listen to your unique selling proposition, understand your brand, and create a visual representation of that brand. It comes down to things like graphics that they're going to use, maybe custom graphics they're going to design, the colors they're going to use, the navigation, how they're going to lay your logo out. All of those things are better created by somebody who has got strong graphical design capabilities. The next area of content, well, content is better created by somebody with very strong writing skills. A talented writer is essential to this. There's a long list of things that a cremation customer wants to know, and someone needs to write that information for them. Now, writing for the web is also very different than writing for things like a magazine article. It typically requires shorter sentences and shorter paragraphs and a more casual style. You definitely don't want to come across stuffy at this time, because that will definitely turn off that cremation family. Now, the function area is created by somebody with very high technical skills, very typically referred to as a software engineer or a programmer. Now, in actuality, 90% of web developers out there are really programmers. They are very talented at creating the functional part of the website. It's very, very rare that you can find one who can do anything worth a darn on the other parts. There's a few good ones who can create some decent design work. It's very rare that you'll find one who can actually write the content for you, but they're very good at creating the functional. So there's three very different skills involved here. You've got a designer to create the graphical piece, you've got a writer to create your content, and you've got an engineering type person, a programmer, to create the functional area. Three very different skills, and again, it's very, very rare that you can find these skills in one person. That's why hiring a single web developer to create your website can be a huge mistake. So those are the three components that you've got to manage: brand, content, and function. The content that satisfies their need to know, the function that gives people the opportunity to do things on your website, and your brand, so that they will remember you in a way that you want them to remember you, so you stand out in the crowd. You take care of those three components of your website, and you're well on your way to creating a great cremation-friendly website. Now, in actuality, though, that's half the battle, because you created this great website. Now, how are you going to get people to become aware of it and go to your website in the first place? Now, I believe that one of the best things that people can start exploring and learning about is called local search engine marketing. And that involves using search engines like Google and Yahoo to promote your website and to drive traffic to your website. I've created another whole video on this whole concept. It's over on my funeralsuccess.com website. If you go there on the navigator, you'll see a link called Local Search Engine Marketing. There's about a 9-minute video that explains exactly how you can use search engines to market to your families around the corner and around the world. This has been John Callahan. If you have any feedback on this video, feel free to send me an email at john@funeralsuccess.com, or you can always reach me at 810-626-4080.